Okay, so
All right,
we
there it is. Oh, I did
for
update this.
the viewer, we just finished discussing Licorice Pizza, Paul Thomas Anderson's new movie. We also discussed a bit at the very beginning of that review, a bit about our thoughts in general about PTA. So that might be a good thing to check up on, because I'm not sure we're going to repeat any of those thoughts. So if you
Probably
want
not.
more content on PTA, you can go there and see that. But we are going to get right into our discussion on Paul Thomas Anderson's filmography. No fluff or guff. We're just gonna go for it. And how's the format gonna go, Chandler?
So the format's going to go is that we're basically going to start bottom to top. We're going to each list it, and when we come to a movie that, basically, I'm going to wait until we both have revealed a movie on its spot before we talk about it. Like, I'm not going to talk about a movie until we get to see where it is on Jacob's list, just so we can, not repeat discussions and get the full thing out of it.
So if Inherent Vice was your number 1 and it was my number 9, we'd wait till number 1 to discuss it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
And I just want to make the caveat. I apologize. I did not watch Magnolia before this. It's 3 hours long. Looks boring as shit.
Hasn't seen everything.
I have not, unfortunately. But I did anticipate this discussion.
We'll talk about it immediately.
Yes, exactly. I did anticipate this discussion, so I finally got to watch Hard 8, but Magnolia, I was going to do it yesterday. They just took it off Netflix December 31st. Yeah.
Damn.
Yep.
We were this close to great.
We were this close to a good discussion, but whatever.
You'll have to do with whatever this will be.
I'll start because I'm pretty sure we have the same last place, and that is Hard 8.
Unfortunately, yes. The last movie is Hard 8. It feels bad saying anything about it. It's like the runt of the litter. It's his first movie. He did a pretty good job with Hard 8, but in the grand scheme of things, it's kind of just doomed to be overshadowed by his more refined work that came later.
And there's definitely some stuff here that I think is interesting. I feel like Hard 8, the only real, like, fully fledged PTA character is the Sydney character, the Simon Baker Hall. Everyone else kind of feels like he's getting at something, but he's not quite there. This is also a period in time where, I'll discuss it more when we discuss Magnolia, but he's really wearing his influences on his sleeve in a way that I feel is more what's the word?
Derivative.
Yes, that is exactly the word I was looking for. Than anything. It starts off pretty solid, but towards the end it just sort of all falls apart.
There's good craft. A lot of his stylistic trademarks are there that have carried through, and I think it's a worthwhile watch. It's not a bad movie by any measure.
No. But when you're stacking it up against some of the other movies, it's like, of course.
The worst thing, like, I don't really have anything necessarily all that bad to say about it, other than it's kind of forgettable. Like, I don't remember too much, just kind of vaguely.
For me, the big thing is that PTA's movies, I feel, live and die by their characters, and the only real character in this is the Philip Baker Hall character. Okay. Everyone else is kind of whatever. It's fine. Also, there was that whole issue where he didn't get final cut. Supposedly, an entire hour of this movie was cut out. Whatever. It's fine.
Speaking of Paul Thomas Anderson films leaving and dying by their characters, Magnolia is my number 8.
And I will let you take
it real quick. So Magnolia is a movie I've only seen once, and so granted, I quite often like movies better the second time I watch them. I'm not sure it's going to be the case. I might dislike it less, but I don't think I'd like it. Magnolia is a movie that I just found kind of annoying. It was really kind of well constructed. I almost feel like Magnolia seems like the more like first movie kind of thing, like kind of like a brash new filmmaker, one who wants to overstep what they're capable of. But it wasn't his first movie, and the problem is, to quote the Emperor of Austria from Amadeus, too many notes. There is too much going on in Magnolia, and the problem is, so it's a movie that follows a bunch of different characters in the San Fernando Valley. very much kind of a similar vibe to Licorice Pizza in that sense, similar location and all that. But it just, I'm not particularly invested in any of the characters, and that's part of the issue. And I found some of them annoying, and it's
Even
kind of
Tom
a,
Cruise.
yeah, even Tom,
Just,
especially Tom Cruise.
yeah, I was about to say.
It was just kind of like loud and too much at certain points, particularly near the end. It was like it's building towards this crescendo that I just think it's too much. Anyway,
Yeah. Yeah. Look, I don't know.
I mean, I'd say skip it, but it's important, I think, to finish a director's filmography, especially someone like PTA. And it is interesting to see uh, something like that movie and then see the progression from there to some of his more recent things.
Mhm. Now, this I feel only speaks to the quality of PTA as a filmmaker, but his second last movie in my book is Boogie Nights.
Wow. We're not there yet.
I figured. I think I know exactly what's coming up next.
So my number 7 is PTA's The Master.
I knew it. Well, look, we're not there yet.
We're not there yet. Okay.
Now, this is where I start to get controversial. Because, again, this only speaks to the quality of PTA as a filmmaker. I have a number 6, There Will Be Blood.
That is... See, you say controversial, but apart from a few exceptions, like Hard 8 and Magnolia, I wouldn't really question anyone for putting any of the movies at number 1. Number 1,
Yeah.
granted. I could
Yeah.
see a decent argument for all of them because he has done such stellar work and he has been pretty consistent.
So what do you have above The Master?
So The Master, number 6, is Inherent Vice.
We're not there. This is gonna be difficult too because I feel like at a certain point they just become flipped. Because here at number 5, I have Punch Drunk Love.
Wow. All the way at 5.
But that's the thing. Punch Drunk Love and Up is all 5-star to me. And
Good.
There Will Be Blood is debatably 5-star as well. I need one more viewing. But that's just how good of a fucking filmmaker he is. I love Punch Drunk Love.
Interesting. I think I might give 5 stars to only 4 or less of his movies.
That's still a lot.
Yeah, still a lot.
That's more than I thought you would.
But I am stingy with my 5 stars.
Yeah.
I think it's only 2 at the moment. I think it's only Punch Drunk Love and Licorice Pizza. Yeah, believe it or not. And so my 5 is Boogie Nights.
Did you not do your 6?
My 6 was Inherent Vice.
Okay, yeah, okay. 5 Boogie Nights, perfect.
So let's talk about Boogie Nights.
So Boogie Nights is like, it's a very good movie.
Yes.
As I said before, my only issues with Boogie Nights is that it feels like a riff on Scorsese. Both Magnolia and, from what I've seen of Magnolia and just the very concept of Magnolia, this is the era where he took what he knew about filmmaking, that being stuff from specifically Martin Scorsese and Robert Altman, did his own version of it and used that to find what he likes out of what he used it to find his voice as a filmmaker. So as much as I love Boogie Nights, what really stops me from thinking it's like a masterpiece or it's great is because it just feels like a different flavor of Scorsese. Nothing about it feels all that inspired. The writing is really good. The filmmaking is very electric, but nothing about it feels distinct to PTA like his later stuff.
Interesting. Because I'd say the final act of Boogie Nights is the most distinctly PTA. That final, very like on the edge of your seat, kind of that sequence at the end of the movie. And I don't think Boogie Nights is a masterpiece or anything like that. We're not even close to 4.5 stars yet with any of these, but it's one that I've only seen once and I should give it another watch. So I don't have that much to say about it. Honestly, I like it, and I definitely would agree with the observation that it is part of his, let's say, less self-assured era that came later, and it is still he's trying to find his footing. but in that early era of PTA, I think it is the strongest of his works. And I don't think it doesn't bring me those references or um, influences don't bring the experience down for me all that much. I was pretty much invested in it, and I found it to be a very fun movie to watch. And that's all I remember. And I really should give it another watch just to kind of see where it fits in the whole thing, because I could definitely see Inherent Vice going above it. Um, I'm not sure it's going to get much higher than that. Actually, I'm pretty sure it won't get higher than 5. Could go lower.
Yeah, it's just I know a lot of people love it. Nate loves it. He's a big fan. It's fun. It's a fun movie. Some really funny stuff in there.
Yeah, we're now at the point after this, since I think we're going to start running into movies to talk about. We're now at like the
Yes.
line in my list where everything past this is perfect. Not perfect, but it's great
Close.
cinema.
So my number 4 is Phantom Thread.
My 4 is Licorice Pizza.
We don't need to discuss. It's good. We just discussed that.
I will say there is a let's call it the Goodfellas shot in Licorice Pizza when it's the waterbed sales at the youth expo. I enjoyed that. It's kind
It's
of a
fun because
homage to his earlier Scorsese shot in Boogie Nights, which is
yeah,
Turner
and it's got
homage.
that's. Did you notice that the fucking Batmobile shows up?
Oh, does it?
That's the Adam West Batmobile that pulls up right in front of the expo
Oh,
before they go in. If you look in the background, there's so many like little TV props from shows of the time. It's really a visual feast, but it's not. It doesn't feel as Coco Cabana-y. So that was your 4, Licorice Pizza. This is where it gets fun because my number 3 is The Master.
this is where the fun begins. The Master. This is
The
one of
Master.
our long running split takes, if you will. Although we're not technically in split take at the moment.
Yeah, and we've been having this discussion forever, so we're not going to get too deep into it. I love The Master. I completely agree with your idea that it isn't really about anything because I've yet to really find out what I think about it.
And that frustrates me. It feels like a movie that could say or could explore something, and it feels like it's aimless, exploring nothing. And not in a way that that aimlessness is in it itself the point. It feels empty aimlessness for me in terms of
It doesn't.
theme and even character to a certain extent. I don't know what to
Yeah.
think of any of them or what to really
God,
what
I'm trying
point
to. How many
to
times have I
get
seen The Master?
from Joaquin Phoenix. Or I get a bit more from Philip Seymour Hoffman, and he's definitely like the kind of focal point in why I appreciate the movie. Like I would go back for him, and I feel like there's more there than elsewhere, but it just seems kind of undisciplined as a whole. It just seems like PTA went too far with the characters and didn't rein it back into something concrete and thematically cohesive.
Yeah, and I've read a lot of readings on the movie. It's a parable about religion or masculinity or the sides of the brain, the sides of the psyche, and I don't 100% believe any of those, and I don't know what I believe. I just really like watching it. It's really well shot. The performances are very good. And every scene, I'm just constantly, I love talking about this movie. I like dissecting what people thought, what scenes people liked and what scenes that they didn't. I like talking about people's different perceptions of it. It's a movie that I like to discuss, maybe even more than I like to watch. And I have yet to really find what I think it's about. And part of me feels like I don't ever know what it's going to be about, but also part of me really likes that I'll never know. It's so confidently ambiguous.
It is. I will agree that it is beautifully shot, and I will also say I've said this a million times before. This is probably the best movie I don't care for at all. I think The Craft is like this is a tier PTA Craft. He's at the top of his game in this movie, and I can recognize that 100%. It just leaves me cold and not interested in any of that. And
It's funny too because I feel like in recent years, with Phantom Thread being the exception, PTA is not necessarily his cinematography isn't about wowing you. The Master has a lot of shots where you're like, mind blown. There's that famous shot of Freddie Quell on top of the ship. There's that beautiful tracking shot of him running through the fields with the fog. There's just so many of those kinds of shots where it's understated spectacle when you compare it to something like Inherent Vice or Licorice Pizza, where like it's just the texture of it more than anything is what
Yeah.
the draw is. More so than
I
the
will
composition.
draw a comparison with Licorice Pizza here in that when I was in between my first and second viewings, I was really wondering what is like the connective tissue in this film? How will that stand up on repeat viewings of like how I remember really interesting sequences throughout the film, but I'm not sure I quite remember everything that was connecting them together. And that got better for me on a second viewing. I feel like that's what's missing for me at The Master in that it just seems like
But you've seen it a few
there's
times.
yeah, I've given it its shot.
Yeah.
Genuine.
Yeah.
I would like to like The Master. I just don't. And I find like I can recall these moments in the film of really great acting, but everything in between just kind of washes over me and just a sea of indifference.
It's nice that there's a movie out there that lets Philip Seymour Hoffman go 100%. It's nice that he has this movie.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, but The Master is the movie that more than any other movie has been shifting around in my list. I still don't really know how I feel about it, but whatever. It's good.
So just
what
a
is your
reminder, The Master
3?
was 7 on my list.
And yeah, mine is 4. 3. It's 3. Yes, 3.
Okay. Number 3 for me is There Will Be Blood, which it was already on your list. It's number 5.
Yes, 6.
6?
5. 6. 6.
So There Will Be
And we
Blood.
have
I'm not
discussed
sure
about it
we have
too.
discussed. I'm not sure there's anything really to add to the discussion. I mean, it's one of the most critically revered films of the century. It's been, you know, uh, Daniel Day-Lewis's performance has been praised ad nauseum. It is
It's
beautifully
objectively his
shot.
best movie.
It depends on how you define objectively.
Yeah.
But yes, yes, from a certain like
Yeah,
from,
sure.
from a cinema perspective, from like the way visual storytelling is and everything, this is a masterclass in cinema. You don't get much bigger than this. And part of the reasons why I can almost see Licorice Pizza going above There Will Be Blood eventually, because the more I get into PTA, the more I enjoy his, I'll call them aimless, quirky romances, just because they seem more kind of distilled and more character driven and less. It it feels like the spectacle is almost overshadowing, is competing with Daniel Day-Lewis for attention and all of this. And yes, it's great. There's nothing. I'm not actually criticizing that or anything, but it just, for me, the reason why There Will Be Blood is at 3 and even could be lower potentially in the future is just I don't know. I just as PTA grows as a filmmaker and I grow along with his progression, I gravitate more towards his smaller romantic films.
That's just more how I feel about movies in general. But I do think Daniel Plainview is like objectively his best character.
One of the
I think that's
greatest
the whole
characters
movie.
ever.
Yeah, that's the whole movie is his character, and I think what really stops it from going above for me is just how much every other character pales in comparison.
I think what's his face?
Paul Dano.
Paul Dano character is really great.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
not a worthy adversary, kind of a worthy adversary in the sense of like looking at the film from an outside, but kind of
that almost like adds
a
to
little
it.
shit in the film. Yeah,
that almost adds to it because Daniel Plainview is just so much better at manipulating people. So when he eventually has to play Eli's game, you know, the I abandoned my boy, I abandoned my child.
Abandoned my child.
You can almost see like he's like reluctant to like, I hate giving him the satisfaction because I know I'm better than you. But There Will Be Blood is just one of those movies that it's not as like dense thematically as something like The Master, where you don't really know what it's about. It's pretty clear what it's about, but the little realizations you make with each different viewing, I think is what really makes it interesting. It's also just fucking beautiful. Like, I think one of his best shots is that shot where he's in like the sort of, it looks like corn or lettuce, I don't know, with that morning fog, and he has that little tripod thing and he's looking through it. It's just, it's beautiful.
And obviously the whole oil derrick on fire sequences. That's one of the great like top all time film sequences. It's
And the
pure
ending,
cinema. Yeah.
love the beginning. The beginning is essentially a short film.
Yeah. So we're gonna start talking about a few movies, and you know, if There Will Be Blood, which is kind of this epic story of oil and everything, is that good? And I just like how I think PTA can do even better with smaller, more
it's more
down
about
to earth
preference.
stories.
Yeah.
And that it just, yeah.
Well, my
But like
number
with like
two is
Licorice Pizza is so, as you were saying, like the cinematography, it's kind of understated. But if PTA
Yeah.
can accomplish everything, is just as good as a director with the understated stuff as he can with the bombastic There Will Be Blood. That's the quality. That's a quality director right there.
But yeah, but again, what it gets that cinematography for me is the texture, which I'll talk about with my other picks. But right now, I have Licorice Pizza at 2.
Wow,
And maybe
already at
recency
2.
bias. I've seen it a bunch of times. I don't know. It's just I rewatched a good amount of PTA in preparation for this, and after rewatching Phantom Thread, which up until about a week ago I would have considered my favorite PTA, and now it's at 4. That's just how often it changes.
That is
This is what I'm
surprising.
feeling right now.
Mine doesn't
but
change
yeah.
all that much, and I'm honestly surprised that Licorice Pizza, which was my number 4, got where it was. Like after my first viewing, I was like, that was pretty good. I have no idea where it is on the list. It's not near the top. And then it's slowly kind of like
Now it is.
weaseled its way up there. And my PTA list hasn't really changed all that much over time. But this Licorice Pizza could theoretically be bumped up, but we'll see. We just spent an hour talking about it, which is pretty cool.
We don't need it.
It's great. It's great.
It's good. Go see it. It's good.
Yeah. I feel like
I think-
he's just one comment. He's becoming more self-assured in his filmmaking style. Like I can just feel it over the course of each progressive movie, and he's becoming more himself in his movies and just willing to do his thing and not someone else's. And I think that's why they're just getting more and more enjoyable to watch.
Agreed. So you have, what was the last one we did? Was There Will Be Blood.
Number 2 for me is Phantom Thread.
Phantom Thread is perfect.
My number 2 and my number 1 are essentially interchangeable. We've reached the point of my love perfection for PTA's work. And you know, even as I'm saying this, I feel bad putting it at number 2, but Phantom Thread is just great. It's a movie I had no idea what to make of it when I first saw it. It is when I saw the trailer, I was like, this is PTA. I have to go see it. This doesn't really seem like something I'd be into though. A dressmaker in London, and it seems like a romantic film.
Stuffy on the outside.
Yeah, and then I watched it and I was almost like taken aback at how much I enjoyed it and how interesting it was and how kind of fucked up it is too, in a really great, interesting way. It remains the only Paul Thomas Anderson film that my mom has watched, and she also loves it.
Oh yeah. This is, I feel the same exact way. Nothing about this really stood out to me when it was announced or when the trailer came out. I'm like, nothing about this world or these characters is any much my thing. But now we're living in a post Mike Lee world. That's just whatever. Now I'm more into this stuff. But every time I watch it, I'm just blown away by how odd it is as a quote unquote romance.
Mm-hmm.
And at this point, it's really difficult. But I think I might prefer Reynolds Woodcock to Daniel Plainview. I love this character.
In the performance, you mean?
Just the character, the performance, everything. Like, obviously, Daniel Plainview is more myth than man, but Reynolds Woodcock is just so fucking hilarious. This is such a
the
funny
asparagus scene whenever he's criticizing the food. It's great. This is the one PTA film that I can like pin down, and like I've figured out what it means to me, like what the theme is, and I feel like it's pretty not obviously, but it's dealing with the artist and artistic expression and
The
how
muse
the
relationship.
muse, how artists are typically eccentric and like weird things, and it explores those things. It's not trying to make any grandiose points, which I think I like PTA to do something a little more focused like this, but I do get the sense like it's going for kind of a unity of purpose that I really, really appreciate about the film.
Do you know how this the conceit for this film came about? Maybe we discussed it. I don't know if we ever discussed this movie. I
So
think we did. We
we have
did.
a
We did.
podcast episode about
Yeah, we
Phantom
did.
Thread.
We
We've
did.
talked a bit about PTA. This is our third PTA full review, or well,
It would be,
Licorice
yeah.
Pizza was our third PTA review on the podcast.
Yeah. But yeah, the story, the film came about. He just got really sick once in the middle of like filming something. I don't remember. And his wife took care of him for like 5 or 6 days, and just over the course of like he got like really bedriddenly sick, and he just over the course of those 5 or 6 days he like kind of really understood. I don't know. I guess he just got the idea for it, just being taken care of in that sort of way, being like a fussy man. So I do find it funny thinking that this is a PTA sort of insert, but it's really funny. It's so
Which
stupidly
might be
good
why
looking.
it feels more thematically cohesive because the
Yeah,
characters didn't come first, the idea came first.
yeah, yeah. It's it. I think it's his best looking movie.
It is, and it doesn't have a cinematographer. Obviously,
Yeah,
PTA worked with the gaffer and all the film crew to create the look of the movie, but it's just every shot is so nice to look at, and this is certainly I think the most interesting ways he's used the camera in terms of framing and movement and everything, especially.
it feels like Boogie Nights is just running around. Phantom Thread's just strolling through these hallways, through these
It's strolling, but it's
houses.
like a focus strolling. Like PTA
Mhm.
knows where the camera needs to
It
be. This
walks like
is
Reynolds Woodcock would walk. Favorite line in the movie, because I just watched it for New Year's. It's a great New Year's movie.
mhm.
Favorite line is when he's making the dress. This is shortly into the relationship. Reynolds is making the dress, and Alma brings him some tea. And he's like, "I don't want any tea. I'm trying to focus or whatever." And Alma like apologizes, and she says, "I'm taking the tea. I'm taking the tea away." And Reynolds says, "The tea is leaving, but the interruption is staying right here with me."
Talk about the
And
fussy
then
artist.
And then, of course, the asparagus scene, the famous
The
"Do
butter.
you have a gun? Show me your gun."
And I love it.
He's
The last
so
line is like, "And I'm getting hungry," or something.
yes,
This
us.
is a great low key food movie, which
It
no one would
is.
expect
It
because it's about
is.
dressmaking, but this whole other
Yeah.
art form of culinary food appears.
And we said before that he's getting less bombastic and showy with his cinematography, but it does still have that one just the New Year's shot. The
Yeah,
one of the best shots in all of movie history. Just like it feels like a painting. The lighting is just so great. It's just so the sound is it sounds submerged. It's just a wonderful sequence. It's just the score. I think it's his best score. Johnny Greenwood's. Uh, that's the thing too is that I'm talking about this and I'm like this should be higher than 4, but he's just a
it should.
fucking good director. He's
Yeah,
a good director.
it's great. I love returning to Phantom Thread, and I wish there was a criterion on it. I wish there was more criterions of PTA's works in general.
Yeah, it's weird.
Fingers crossed. Really fingers crossed for Licorice Pizza. I think that'd be
That'd be
great.
amazing.
Yeah.
Oh my god, can you imagine the newspaper ads and the booklets?
Ooh,
Just oof.
Digipack
Um,
with kind of
please.
the whole vibe of the 70s should be put into that. It could be great. Could be
It's gotta
great.
be the current poster too. I love this poster. This one. Hard to see.
Yeah, it's a pretty great poster.
So my number one, or should we just yeah, fuck it. We'll do my number one. Inherent Vice.
Which after watching it, so I rewatched it for Chandler's benefit. And I think I watched it twice oh shit. We also talked
You did
about
watch it
Inherent
twice
Vice on the
when
podcast too.
we
Oh my
did.
god.
We've talked about a lot of PTA. Oh my god.
Yeah. They just keep appearing. I think that's actually it. But I watched it twice for that uh, episode. I remember in the span of like 48 hours,
Yeah.
and on my third viewing, after some time to let it sit and breathe, like a nice glass of wine, uh, it's fine. It's a bit long. I'm not sure. I didn't get any.
Oh no.
I'm not gonna. It's not diminishing returns. It's not
Yeah.
improving returns either. With something like Licorice Pizza, it's just kind of it. There it is. I will say, however, everything with Josh Brolin, that gets better on each viewing. I will return
He
to
is.
Inherent Vice just for that.
Yeah, it's a movie that I understand why people don't like it. Um, it's very similar. I've discussed many times. It's very similar to Under the Silver Lake, where I feel like you either loathe it or love it. Obviously, you're more in the middle. But I find this, and I get worried every time. Every time it's gone, like been like a few months or a year since I've seen it, I worry to myself, am I just tricking myself into thinking this is the best PTA because it's everything I love in a PTA movie. And the most recent rewatch, I watched it about a month and a half ago. I don't think I've ever laughed harder than I have at this movie than I was watching it this last time. And I don't think I've ever been more amazed at how genius a lot of the story is until this most recent time. But the thing is, I feel like a fucking crazy person because whenever I have to defend that opinion, it's just so much I don't know where to start.
It's
Um,
too undisciplined. Like I can't get into a lot of the scenes with like a lot of the smaller characters. They just don't interest me. And even like Joaquin Phoenix as like his character and everything, it's he's not one of my favorite PTA characters. I don't know. Or the performance, it just doesn't draw me in. Like on the performance level, that part isn't there for me. It's still great
See,
performances.
that's
They're just not really
yeah.
riveting. They don't carry it through all the kind of twists and turns because it's kind of by design nebulously structured and kind of all over the place. And I think if there were more like the characters and the acting was more interesting in and of itself, I would be more kind of glued to my screen. But as it is, I just kind of I don't know. It's all over the place.
See, I don't know. I think the most recent rewatch, because again, a lot of these kinds of movies, noir type movies, it's all about the side characters. It's about the little chapters of the story. I think it was this most recent time that I really realized that Doc is like my favorite character in the movie. It's kind of the same thing I had with the dude, where I'm like, the dude is great, but it's all the side characters that really make the movie. And then you get to a certain point where you're like, the dude is the best character. Just because he's not the showiest doesn't mean he's not the best. But there's a very particular moment this time around that really made me laugh. Because a huge part of it too is that all the characters are so weird,
Yes.
and Doc is always high. So a great little thing that I always watch for in this movie is that you can always tell when Doc is talking to someone and their eccentricity comes out. There's always this little look in his eyes where he's like, "Is this real? What I'm seeing right now?" And I think that really makes a lot of these interactions. But I was watching the one with the scene with uh, the guy who just died from The Wire. I forget his name.
From The Wire. What?
The black guy from The Wire just died. He played the guy
Oh,
looking for
from The
his
Wire.
yeah. Yeah. But he says the name of someone he's looking for, and it's like a Spanish name, and Joaquin Phoenix is writing it down in his little notebook, and he's like, huh? And you just a quick cut to the notebook, it just says something Spanish in it. And it's just these little details where like he doesn't really know what's going on. The whole movie is about what really again, we discussed this. I'm just going to say that what really blew me away this time is the fact that the whole movie is about Joaquin Phoenix sort of like discovering the fact that this world is fucked and corrupt and everyone's in bed with everyone and it's too gargantuan and corrupted and evil to even fathom being able to take down as one person. So in the end, he sort of like discards all of that and makes his sole focus um, getting Owen Wilson back to his family. Because at the end of the day, that's all he can do.
Hmm.
All he can do is, believe in the little love that there is left and just sort of, I guess, let the rest of the world fester.
Uh,
It's,
in our Licorice Pizza review, we talked about the great names that PTA has for characters, and talking about a name that is just kind of funny in and of its own. Dr. Rudy Blatnoid. What a great name, and also in terms of bit character parts, pretty great little performance by Martin Short. One of the more interesting parts of the film, I think, for me, whenever he's on screen there.
Yeah, and well, that's the thing, is a lot of this stuff is also just from the book.
Yeah,
obviously, but I'm trying to like. There's a very specific the at the beginning of the movie, the first scene you get with Bigfoot Bjornsson is the ad. And that ad is just so fucking funny to me, where he's got the little like afro and the hippie outfit, and it's just, that's another thing that sort of shows up in Licorice Pizza, is that little Joel Wax ad that plays in the middle of the movie. And another little detail of Licorice Pizza, to diverge, is just he's sitting down for like a little interview that Alana is like conducting. And just a tiny little detail I appreciated was just the fact that these amateur filmmakers trying to make this interview, that little shot of Benny Safdie on the couch, his knee is in focus for some reason. It's just his whole face is, you can't even tell what he's saying, but his knee is in focus. It's just little stuff like that. Yeah, I don't even know how to. I'm just gonna say fuck it. Inherent Vice is my favorite. I'll never be able to explain why. Whatever.
Well, I appreciate your devotion to the film at the very least, even if I don't necessarily see it. It is a good movie. I do enjoy watching it a bit more than The Master. The Master's a little stuffy for me, but Inherent Vice at the very least is kind of freeform. It's out there. It's funny.
Yeah.
The
final film.
But speaking of a movie that's not freeform, but is very much out there, Punch Drunk Love is my number one PTA film, and I'm not sure what could possibly be said about this movie, because it is perfect. It is short. It's PTA's shortest film.
Shorter than Hard 8, I'd imagine.
Let's not count Hard 8. That doesn't count. But it just flies by, and we're talking about big bombastic filmmaking. This is bombastic filmmaking, but I feel like it's to a greater point. It is bombastic filmmaking that is evoking an emotion very successfully, I think. It is an anxiety-inducing experience, and it is one of those movies where it might be one of the only PTA movies where first time I watched it all the way through, it was like, my God, this is filmmaking like I have never seen before. And I think I saw it, a similar kind of deal again in like Uncut Gems, obviously with the Adam Sandler connection, which is great to have an actor like Adam Sandler be in a movie like this and be as good as he is, but also just that anxiety-inducing filmmaking is it's kind of similar between those two. But this one has more of kind of like the polish, the PTA lens flares, the use of color and everything. Beautiful cinematography. I love it. It's easy to watch because it's short. Perfect.
It took me a while to get into this one. The first time I saw it was fine. Then I watched it after you and Nate had like fawned over it. I thought it was fine. I watched it a third time. I thought it was great. And this most recent time, I watched it like 4 or 5 months ago. No, it was like a month or two ago at this point. It's perfect. And the only reason is that it hires because it's perfect in its simplicity, but it's not necessarily as complex as some of his other things. But at the same time, it doesn't need to be. It's also fucking hilarious. I do think that scene in particular that really gets me every time is when he destroys the bathroom. And then
I like it when he's running away from the goons, and he's just heavily panting and having a panic attack, and he jumps over a thing, and just, you don't see him, but you can just tell he just splat onto the concrete and just keeps running all in one take. Yeah, it's great. It's hilarious acting from Adam Sandler.
Favorite tiny little bit of cinema is just that little dance he does when he takes his coworker with him to get the pudding.
So funny. Whenever he says pudding, I just laugh. It's not even a joke at some points. I just find the word funny in the context with Adam Sandler.
Just every time he's like talking in his office and you just see that mountain of pudding in the background, it's just funny.
And that's based off of a real thing.
Yeah. I don't know. Again, coming back to Licorice Pizza, I don't know if you know this, but a lot of Licorice Pizza is based on a real guy,
Yeah, I heard that.
which is why I think it feels so lived in. So it's so specific. But this feels equally
Something.
what?
I just wanted to make mention. Didn't forgot to mention this in our Licorice Pizza review, but I am suing Paul Thomas Anderson. This is a joke. I'm not actually suing Paul Thomas Anderson, but I'm suing Paul Thomas Anderson for copyright infringement on my nightmares for the Shabbat dinner sequence. That was pure anxiety. It was too close to home. It shouldn't have been put on film, and I'm angry it exists. Thank you. Goodbye. I'll see you in court.
There, it's very Jewish little part of that movie. Yeah,
He has a Jewish streak in him, doesn't he?
yeah. I also love the score of Punch Drunk Love. Not Johnny Greenwood. It's John Bryan did the score. It's fucking amazing. But it's sort of evocative of that kind of Johnny Greenwood type thing where it's
Yeah.
more about feeling and texture of the sounds than it is a melody or some sort of
Yeah.
hummable tune.
This is another great example of a score that you can't hum or isn't particularly memorable, but it is the vibe it gives you is memorable, and it is nothing else could have worked as perfectly in the film as it does.
And even when it takes those romantic dips, a lot of those romantic songs are kind of odd. Just a few keys away from being a typical romance song, which I think is sort of reflective of the whole nature of their romance. But it's a beautiful ending. Philip Seymour Hoffman steals the show.
Shut up!
He's in it for just a small bit. I wish I had the. I was about to say that's like the best reaction video you can post. It's just him shouting "shut up" into a phone like 12 times.
Shut up!
Just a perfect little movie. And that's
like
the thing. Well, as we were saying before, I feel like just about every movie aside from Hard Eight, I can understand why it would be your favorite. And this one in particular, I'm like, yeah, I get it.
So Punch Drunk Love, Phantom Thread, and Licorice Pizza, I think I'm gonna rope them together and the PTA's off-putting love trilogy. I think they're all kind of similar in that way. Like he does a totally different thing with each new movie, but there is, I think, a very strong through line between all of these. They're kind of similar in what they're going for at the
Could
core.
even say that about Freddie Quell and Lancaster Dodd.
You could do the PTA grand historical trilogy of There Will Be Blood,
Well,
The
actually,
Master, and what else?
I know they're the same age, but The Master to me feels like part of another trilogy of fucked up father-son things. Because we got Mark Wahlberg and Jack Horner, got Daniel Day-Lewis and his son, Magnolia, Tom Cruise and his dad, or in whoever the fuck, I don't know. I'm not gonna pretend.
Hard Eight, sort of too.
Yeah,
kind of a pseudo father-son relationship there.
Yeah.
PTA, great director. Let's just go through our list just to kind of let people know. Might have got lost in the weeds, all of that. So I'll say mine is Hard Eight, Magnolia, The Master, Inherent Vice, Boogie Nights, Licorice Pizza, There Will Be Blood, Phantom Thread, and Punch Drunk Love.
Mine is Hard Eight, Boogie Nights, There Will Be Blood, Punch Drunk Love, Phantom Thread, The Master, Licorice Pizza, Inherent Vice.
Quick final question. Let's say someone has never seen a PTA movie before. Where would you recommend someone to start?
Punch Drunk Love. Simple.
I think if, with the caveat, as long as someone has no issues with the age gap, I think Licorice Pizza is best place to start with them, actually.
Yeah.
For me.
Yeah. But I don't know, because I feel like even that is comparatively even a lot more plotless than a lot of PTA's other stuff. That could throw.
But I feel like it's kind of cool.
True.
It's not weird and obscure, like Phantom Thread or The Master is, or Boogie
True.
Nights. You know, like
True.
these are
It's
very
pretty easy to understand.
right, and get on board with it.
The romance one. Start with the romance one.
Maybe not Phantom Thread. Don't.
No.
There Will Be Blood, I think, is a. I think you could start with.
It's a bit long.
Yeah. It's a bit long.
I mean, that's not a criticism coming from me. But you also have to consider the fact that the first 20
it sounded
minutes
like
have
you said
no
it.
dialogue. No. There Will Be Blood is perfect.
Okay.
Maybe.
If you say so.
Close to perfect.
Maybe. Do a little pro tip. The Phantom Thread Blu-ray is almost always on sale at Barnes & Noble. I've never seen it
sad.
on sale. So, well, it's
reversible.
sad, but if it gets reversible as in you could return it if you regret your decision.
Yeah.
I'm joking. I know what you're talking about. The cover is reversible.
Your financial decision.
Or no, the sale is reversible. So you get to pay 30% more if you wanted to.
Also true.
Because you're so appreciative of being able to see a PTA film.
I know. I'm also kind of amazed to circle back that you actually bought the French Dispatch. I feel like you would have quote unquote waited for the Criterion, but I guess it does take a long fucking time.
I was thinking of that was the biggest impediment for me to getting the movie. Also the fact that there's literally nothing on the Blu-ray disc. I would have liked if there were like even like a trailer for the movie. Would have been like, okay, there's at least one special feature. But I just thought to myself, like, it took what felt like ages for the Grand Budapest Hotel.
6 years.
Criterion.
Literally 6 years.
The Isle of Dogs Criterion is nowhere in sight. And
that's right.
You know, if it's going to be another 6 years, if it's going to be 3 years, I think it needed a rewatch sooner rather than later. And why spend it's like $6 for a new release rewatch? At that point, I'm already a third of the way there to watching the movie. So
true.
I'm really glad I got it.
I will do the same.
The Long Goodbye, which was on sale at Zia, which is pretty cool.
Nice.
Excited. Cool. It's from
wanting
Kino Lorber Studio Classics.
I just bought a movie on Amazon, just appeared today. A movie that I am shocked I didn't already own. But it is the masterpiece of our good friend of the show, Paul Schrader. It's First Reformed.
Oh.
I can't believe I didn't own it.
Should rewatch that at some point.
You've seen it, what,
Paul
2 or 3 times?
Once.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I'll give Paul another try.
Maybe the card counter flipped a switch in your brain. Of all the fucking movies, the card counter flipped a switch in your brain. Based Paul.
Maybe.
So next podcast we don't even have a movie to discuss. We're just doing a little revow.
Oh yeah, a recap of all of the stuff. We're at actually we do have a movie. Sorry, we do.
Okay.
Yeah,
sure.
If you remember, La Jetée.
Oh, it's a short film. Okay,
short film.
That's right.
It's like 20-ish minutes long. I'm pretty sure it should be on the Criterion Channel.
Has to be. And then, just in time to bring up the age-old discussion, should short films be included? Spoiler alert, Jacob thinks no.
We'll see after we discuss this La Jetée. I won't say anything.
I am going to say yes, just so we can one day get Hulk hands in the AFI for the BFI list. Could happen. Could happen.
Although this year, I think we also need to do a special episode. Maybe it'll be the first. Maybe when we are together, we'll do like a whole an actual cool studio setup and make it look really epic and cool.
Yeah.
But we should talk about the potential for the BFI 2022 list because it's been 10 years, and they are due for another one. So we better get on it. We better review the second half of the list in 6 months, and then we can start over again with the new list.
3 movies per episode.
All right. That's it. Thank you very much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe if you liked any
Hit
of
the
it.
bell.
Very curious to hear what your thoughts on the PTA's filmography and any movies you've watched. Do you disagree with me about Magnolia? Explain to me why. I'm kind of curious. I'd always like to like movies more, so let me know.
I would
Let me know
like
what
to
you
know
think.
where my Inherent Vice stands are. Hit me up. Discuss the movie with me. We need more in the army.
All right. That's all, folks.